Gospel according to St. Luke. That's the Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter number 5. And I want to look at verses 37 through 39. Here beginneth the reading of God's holy word. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. But new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. No man also having drunk the old wine straightway desireth new, for he saith the old is better. So far our text. We're talking about a timely church in times like these. A timely church in times like these. You see, in Luke chapter number 5, it's where Jesus began to call together his church. He began to call his disciples. And when you think of the church, when you start to analyze the church, and you think of the church, you know the church is a living, breathing organism. And the reason that the church has remained relevant and effective for 2,000 years is because the church evolves. It is able to minister to the current generation. The church is able, and when you think about it critically and carefully, and start examining the church, and start looking at its faults and its failures, and start going through its problems and how it is imperfect. And when you start looking at the people who attend the church, the people who come, you know the church is made up of imperfect people. And in that group, we got some of everything, you understand? In the church, there's a great mixture of people from all kinds of backgrounds. You understand? And when you start to break it down, I think you should keep this one thing in mind. And Elder Dan beat me to the punch, but this is Christ's church. Although it's imperfect, it belongs to him. And so the church will never get further than what Christ wants it to be. My God. And so the issue that the church has always had, Pastor Price, is that it's had a problem with what God has done. The reason that the church cannot accept what God is doing is because it's stuck on what God has done. In other words, the problem with the church is old wine. I wish I had a witness here. The problem that the church has is that the church loves old wine. Jesus made it clear to us. He said that no man having tasted the old is going to like anything new. Did you hear what I said? And so we got people in the church who's stuck in their old ways. You understand? If you can't stand the sister because she got a little rouge on her jaw or her lips are lightly colored, then your problem is old wine. If you can't stand it because young people have on jeans and they have their hair dreaded, you know what your problem really is? That's old wine. Old wine. It's old wine. And there's something new. But if we're going to preserve the church, then we got to make it plain that everything ain't for everybody.